The Sony PCM M10 has a cult following from the sound designer and field recordist community. A lot of people probably haven't heard of it, and they might be active in that community. I bought this in about October of last year, 2025. I've had it for a while and I've used it consistently since. I haven't seen a good review of this thing online, so I felt compelled to give one. There are timestamps in this video if you want to just jump around to the parts that matter to you, but I do suggest watching a bunch of it so you can understand what it's like to actually own this thing. I think there needs to be more of a place for compelling reviews by people who have used the product for a long time and in a lot of different ways and can vouch for it. I feel equipped to do that with this recorder because I've used it on film sets. I've recorded sound effects packs that I sell with it. I've popped it on top of a camera. I've used it as a plant mic. I've just talked into it like this a lot. Yeah, I've kind of put this thing through the test. I don't want too many people to buy it because I want the price to stay down, but I also want people to understand that it's on the market and it exists and it could be a tool that you might love. In this video, you're gonna see me talk through the different months of owning it, and you'll see overall I love it, and I just wanna say here definitively, it is my favorite device I've ever owned. This recorder's so badass. It's so tiny that I can just put it in my pocket literally. It's not just pocketable, it is actually pocketable. I throw it in my sling bag and I get going. This and like a little pair of wired headphones and I can record the world. Good converters, great signal to noise ratio, great onboard microphones, great preamps. Sound quality, this thing's second to none of its size. Second to none, and they stopped making this like years ago. Why did they do that? Why did they stop making this? This is what I needed. You know, tit for tat, different people need different things in a recorder. And for me, this is just a sound quality machine, right? It's a fidelity machine. It picks up highest quality audio in the most compact size. It lacks some features like it doesn't have XLR inputs. It can't supply 48 volts of power. It doesn't have like a lot of onboard editing. I think it has like a limiter. I don't think I'd ever need to use this thing as an audio interface, even in a pinch. I don't think it'll come to that point. I have other recorders and devices that can do that. I went with the Rycote Windjammer. I think Bumblebee does one and Radius does one, but they are a little bigger. So I thought I'd start with like the most compact thing I could find and just stick to the pocketable aspect. I like to come out here different times of day and year and just listen, get some recording, some ambience. I feel a little empty-handed when I just walk up with this little recorder to do a full ambience, but it nails it. It does the job. I don't know, it's just like kind of therapeutic to be out here. It's such a fun recorder to bring for something like this. Like, I get to focus more on the world around me and less on the tech settings. If I want to do like one shots, like maybe I'm throwing some rocks in the water or something, maybe it's not the ideal recorder for that, but it can still do it. I just can steal one side of the stereo image and then kind of get that mono sound if I need it. I love exploring with this thing. It's just so creative. It can handle whatever you throw at it. I know that I can come out here and use my ears and listen and find the best spots, and this thing will translate it the way that I want to. It can feel a little weird to leave the house for a recording session and only bring this little thing that's smaller than my phone. But once you get used to it, you're like, okay, I can actually listen to the world around me and not worry about the tech, the gear. To make it in time for a moment, sometimes you just need to hit record and start. Usually I'll set this thing down, hit record, walk away so I don't affect the ambience, because knowing me, I'll cough or something. I can watch the levels. I trust this thing. I know it has a low noise floor. I have to hand it to Rare Fine Sound Design. He made a lot of posts about his sound design adventures. I'm sure you've heard of him if you know of our channel. He made some posts about this recorder amongst others, and it really caught my eye. He told me a little bit about it, told me how much he loved it, and I was sold after I did some research. Next on my list is to pick up some small plug-in power microphones, some stereo microphones from either Laum or Sonorous Objects, two companies that make microphones that specialize in field recording. I even recently plugged in a shotgun microphone to it. I have a shotgun microphone that you can put a AA battery in so it doesn't need phantom power. I plugged it into this using the right adapter and it sounded amazing. I don't think I'll do that very much, but I'm gonna keep it in my bag because you never know if you just wanna get a one shot. You want that shotgun that separates the background. Hopefully I'm not. I feel like I'm out of focus, I'm suddenly realizing, but whatever. I've seen the good, I've seen the bad. I have the things I would change and the things I don't really care about. After using this thing for like 2 months, I still feel the same way about it that I did 1 week in, 2 weeks in. I whip this thing out even more often than I thought I would. For a lot of talking heads like this, I don't even want to lav myself up with it. I just talk straight into it. Sometimes I'll forget I have it in my coat pocket. I can leave it in my car, hide it easily if I don't want it for a little bit. If I need to conceal it, like if I'm getting walla at a party or something, it's pretty easy to go under the radar. Like people have thought this was a phone, people have thought it was, I don't know, some other piece of tech. If I take the windjammer off of it, it does look like a phone. People leave it be. I was at an art show a few weeks ago and I really wanted to get the ambience of just the open space with a few people walking through. I was able to press record, set it on a table, nobody bothered it for like an hour. The main issue that I have with this recorder comes from it being a bit older. It came out in that mid 2010s era where menus were just terrible all across the board. How you choose where you're storing your file is not very intuitive. There are multiple menus you have to go through to format versus just pick what you're recording to, whether that's the SD card or the internal memory. And then when you take the SD card out and put it back in, I've noticed it does not always remember what your last setting was. So anytime you're about to record for the day, it's a great idea to just double check what you're recording to. But what can you do? I mean, it's an older device. There have been a few times that I thought I was recording to my SD card, but then it's actually going to internal memory. Not a huge deal unless you max it out, which is possible because I think it's only like 8 or 16 gigabytes of internal memory, which when you're recording at high sample rates, that 8 gigabytes of internal memory does actually fill up faster than you'd think. The SD card, it takes like these slow micro SDs. They're pretty old and like it's pretty limited. You have to pick just the right micro SD for it to work. Also annoying. But when you open the little door and you want to put a micro SD in it, you have to get it just right. There's a little bit of a wiggle, and if you don't, it's not inserted correctly, and then, you know, that's a little worrisome, but I haven't really had a problem with that while recording. Once you've got it in there correctly, it should be fine. Another weird thing is initiating recording. You have to record arm it, which I like. If I have headphones in, then I can kind of listen to my source before I actually start recording. But what I don't love is often I'm actually not monitoring this in real time. It's really easy to accidentally not record. You have to hit record, which arms it, and then play, which initiates the actual recording. This isn't that weird. You know, if you're a Pro Tools user or if you use DAWs, you understand that this is pretty normal. But for something this pocketable and small, I think I would like it if you could set it so when you just hit record, it starts recording. Just the other day, there were some geese that were flying overhead that made a really unique sound, and I wanted to record them as quickly as possible. So I had to turn the device on, hit record, hit play, and I just had to hope that I caught it. The startup sequence, it's not bad for the older software firmware that's on this thing. I can't really complain, but that extra record then play is just one more step that I would like to have an option to skip. So the display is a little bit hard to see. I don't really mind. It doesn't have a backlit IPS screen or anything like some of the newer devices do. That does help with battery life, and I'd rather have good battery life over a great screen personally. You can refresh it and then like the little light will bounce up, and that's about all I need. But what I have noticed that's like unexpectedly annoying is even with the Rycote Windjammer, which is I think the smallest one you can get for it, the Windjammer covers up the screen. So if I am in the middle of a recording and I'm trying to watch it or check my time, check my levels, I have to kind of like look and see if I can see the screen around the fuzzy. Again, this is just kind of a, what are you gonna do? The thing is so small that that's not that big of a sacrifice. That's kind of the case with all of these things. Once you just learn the quirks, you just learn to deal with the quirks and then not care. If I were to propose an updated M20 or something, a more modern version of this, I would request the same body. Love this body. It's beautiful, durable, small. I would want a newer screen if it didn't really sacrifice battery life. I like that there's only 2 AA batteries in here. I usually use rechargeables. Sometimes I'll throw lithiums in. Either way, I get a ton of battery life out of it. I would update the menu. I think that would be an easy thing to do, even with slower firmware. Just something more modern that's easier to understand, something that is able to save your settings and remember. If my fast and high capacity SD cards could work in here, that would be great. Micro SD, doesn't need to be full-size SD. Another downfall that I almost forgot about is on the back of the unit, there is a switch for your record level, and you can change it from manual to auto. Manual is obviously so you can use the gain knob and choose your own gain setting. The auto is actually pretty good on here. I haven't messed with it a ton, but the few times that I did, I liked it. That being said, the switch is really easy to accidentally bump if you're not paying attention. So there are a few times I've accidentally clicked it from manual to auto. I do a recording, then realize, oh, that was in auto record mode, and hopefully the levels were right. When I've gone back and listened, everything's been pretty nice. So I like to think that Sony has a good auto mix function. I'm not a big fan of a lot of auto mix functions on some of the consumer stuff that's out today, like the Rode and DJI stuff. It kind of doesn't know when to mix you properly, and then you'll get a lot of noise introduced when you don't want it. In an updated version of this recorder, I would say keep the auto gain as an option, bury it in the menu so you can't accidentally click it, and then add a function knob that you could set to turning that on or off for the people who jump back and forth a lot. The kinds of things that I've recorded with this recorder in the past 2 months are lots of ambience, lots of walla, a bunch of around the house, around the office sounds, around town sounds, saving for later, right? Like there might be a place I find and I start to record it with this and I think, I need a little more stereo separation, or I need a shotgun mic to get the background noise out because I just want to get that boat when it goes by, or I want to get the bell at the top of the church tower, but the chances that it's going to go off when a car isn't going by is hard. So I'll use this kind of as like a voice recorder, voice memo thing as well. I know when it's not going to do the job. I know when I need to bring another mic or another recorder. So I write those down, and then I know I'll bring my F8 with a shotgun mic later, and I'll get the sound I need, or maybe, like stereo pencil condensers or something. If you were to buy this, I would highly recommend that you kit it out the correct way. It doesn't just come amazing out of the box. If the whole point is for the recorder to work seamlessly with your current flow, the accessories have to as well, which is why I got the smallest windjammer that I could find. I have a bag that can hold the accessories that I want. I always keep this like wrist strap that I found on Amazon on it because I'm just not waiting around for the day that I finally drop it. Not micro USB, but USB mini. That's the cable that this takes. Sometimes I take the card out and use an adapter into my Mac Studio, but often I've been finding myself just keeping the cable that goes from USB mini to USB-C on me. And then when you plug this thing into the computer, you can access both the internal memory and the SD card at the same time and kind of look at both. They're not fast. The transfer speeds are actually slow as fuck. It's audio, so the files aren't that big. If you can just wait like 10-15 minutes, you're okay. I love the sound of this thing. I love the low noise floor. I feel like I can record anything with it. There's nothing that it's not ready for. I can just whip it out and know that it's gonna get a great sound for lots of different sources. I can pump up the gain and not really worry about it. You barely hear any internal noise with the noise floor that it has. It's not, top in the game, but for its size, it's just as good as it gets. The onboard speaker is solid enough. You can play back and check if you've got the recording you need. It's not incredible, but it's good enough to kind of like cycle through things and check what you've recorded that day. The headphone amp is a little shitty, but if you've just learned what it sounds like, you're good. Like the first few days I was using this recorder, I heard a lot of hiss while I was live listening through headphones as I was recording, and I was like, oh man, this thing does have a high noise floor. Then I went back and listened to the recording, so I was like, oh, no, it's just a headphone amp. Of course it's not gonna have a great headphone amp on a device this small. So if you just learn what it sounds like in your headphones live versus what it's gonna sound like when you get back on the computer, you just get used to hearing the hiss live and know that it's not gonna be there in the final recording. So I'm about 5 months into owning the M10. I'm on a trip to San Francisco right now. We're collecting a bunch of video and audio recordings for podcasts, live streams, lifestyle stuff. I did bring the M10 just to get ambiances around the city. It's the perfect city for it. It's like classic city background sounds that you would want. And then there's some unique stuff too. So I'm going to be doing that for a few days, but I thought this would be the perfect time for a 5 to 6 month ownership check-in on this recorder. On a trip like this, I value speed, reliability, portability, quality, and while this thing brings the quality, what I have noticed is opening it up and recording takes a little bit longer than you would want, maybe in a more modern recorder or a recorder with more functionality. I have to turn the thing on, wait, kind of hit a few buttons before I can start recording. And then a lot of times, like if it's the first time I'm recording that day or maybe like that segment, like if I have my recorder in the morning, I put it down, I turn it back on in a few hours, I'm always checking memory things because I don't fully trust the memory yet. I don't fully trust that it's recording to the place I want to. I don't fully trust that the SD card is in the best position. The SD card wiggles a little bit inside of the port. So there's always a worry that, it's not perfectly connected or it's not reading it the way you want to. I like to record in 96 kilohertz, so it's really important to have a big SD card. That being said, it is really nice that it still has that internal memory, even though it's small. If I forget an SD card, if I run out of space on my SD card, I can keep recording. It depends on the size, but like 30 minutes to an hour. I popped it on top of my camera a few times so that it can kind of be my boom mic if I'm just getting run and gun footage. It sounds good for that, but the form factor of it just isn't my favorite for that, so I would probably still pick a smaller microphone and plug it directly into the camera. I know they make a bunch of those little preamps for cameras. I still don't really like those. I would still opt for something like this over that, but it has its limitations. Walking around the city with this thing has been great because I can just throw it in my pocket, in a bag, pull it out when I do want it. As long as I know I've got like a minute to get set, I'm good to go. Still, one of my favorite things to do with the M10 is like a walk and talk. I love putting in the headphones, directly monitoring, just walking around the city and listening to sounds in a way that I wouldn't without a recorder in my hand, stopping and just finding things. What's also awesome about this is even though it's not 32-bit, it just has such good preamps and it's just the sound is so reliable that I can just use it in most situations. Like any situation that I could add another mic on, I think of this mic first. Whether it's a talking head interview, grabbing specific sound effects, maybe it's a podcast or something, throwing this in as a room mic, putting it in someone's hand because we just need something easier than laving somebody up real quick, perfect. Putting it on top of the microphone and kind of faking it like a boom mic, it works too.